Okay, we are going to be reading the last chapter of Stink, Hamlet and Cheese, Act 7. And it is called Hamlet and Cheese. Stink's time had come. Time to shuffle off this mortal coil. Time to croak, as in die. On the last day of Shakespeare camp, that is, the day before they would perform for their families. Great sword play yesterday, sprites, said Amanda Beth. This morning, we will work on what to do after the sword fighting. We are going to learn how to die a glorious death, just like in Mr. Shakespeare's plays. A murmur of excitement went through the group. There are lots of different ways to die in Shakespeare. Let's say poison is poured into your ear while you're sleeping, Amanda Beth said. Grab your neck like this, stick out your tongue, and pretend you're choking. If you're stabbed with a dagger, clutch your stomach. Stagger and fall on your rear, said Riley, acting it out. Perfect, said Amanda Beth. And if someone throws a deadly snake at you, run, said Harper and Hazel. Don't forget to scream, said Sophie. Everybody on your feet, said Amanda Beth. Let's try it. Riley grabbed her neck and stuck out her tongue. Sophie let out a blood-curdling scream. Stink held up a pretend sword and chased after some sprites. Swing, swing, stab, stab, ah! Stink's air sword was faster than a flying karate chop. Sprites swooned, sprites groaned, sprites crumpled on their knees. Sprites were falling down all around him and calling out, Oh, I'm slain! Wait till I tell Webster about this, thought Stink. For the rest of the day, the sprites practiced their Shakespeare scenes in small groups. Will you be ready for the big wet one tomorrow? Riley asked Stink. The smooch? The smackaroo? Stink tried to scare off Riley with stinky stuff from Shakespeare time. I have the pox, you know, he warned. Do not, said Riley. Then I have the scurvy. Nuh-uh. The vermin? Stink scratched his head. No way do you have lice, Stink. Theo? No go. Forget it, said Stink. There's no kissing in Hamlet anyway. We'll see about that, said Riley. Fie on me, fly-faced maggot pie. Methinks she's mad, said Stinks. Most true, said Sophie. The new morn came. 'Twas Saturday, hither at last. Stink sat in the back seat on the way to Shakespeare camp with his family. Tell us about Hamlet, Stink, Dad said, talking into the rearview mirror. Yeah, let's hear about your big death scene, said Judy. Okay, so there's this King Claudius, said Stink. He's the bad guy and he's way into poison. He gets this guy Leardus to fight Hamlet, but Hamlet doesn't know the sword has a poison tip. Yikes, said Judy. Sounds bad. And the bad king says he's putting a pearl in Hamlet's cup, but it's really a poison pill. Then Hamlet's mother drinks it by mistake. Even better, said Judy. Now comes the sword fight, said Stink, waving his hands in the air. Leardus gets Hamlet with the poison sword, but in the fight, the swords get mixed up. So Hamlet picks up the wrong sword and kills Leardus with the poison sword. Whoa, what happens next? What happens next? Asked Judy. Leardus tells Hamlet that there was Claudius who was behind all of this. So Hamlet kills the bad king. And that's not even the end, said Stink. You'll see. The stage was set. The time was at last upon yon spirits. The sprites and their families piled into the practice stage room. It had black walls and a black floor. Families sat on bleachers around the room. Welcome, friends all, Amanda Beth announced. Thank you for coming to our camp. We've had a great week. Today, the Shakespeare sprites will be acting out scenes from several different plays for you. We hope you'll enjoy the show. First up, we're Hazel, Lily, and Jasmine, who acted out a scene from The Tempest. There was a storm and a shipwreck, Enter Alonzo, Sebastian, and Antonio. The three search the island to look for Alonzo's son, the prince. My son is lost. What strange fish hath made his meal on me? In the next scene, Riley stood on her head and did a backflip, pretending to be Puck in a midsummer's night dream. Lord, what fools these mortals be! Come on, Ham, said Sophie. Our turn. Stink and Sophie stood in front of the audience. They motioned for Harper to come up from them. Hi, I'm Hamlet, Stink said to the audience, but you can call me Ham. We will be doing the last scene in Hamlet. I have just been stabbed with a poisoned sword by Leartus, and I'm about to die, but I still want to kill my enemy, King Claudius, before I do. And I am the soon-to-be dead King Claudius, said Harper. Greetings, said Sophie, taking a bow. I'm Artario. Ham's best friend, said Sophie. Stink grabbed his stomach, making faces and tummy-aching sounds. He limped across the room with one eye closed, moaning like he was in pain. Then, Venom, to thy work, he cried. Then swing, swing, stab, stab, Stink pretended to kill the bad king. Harper crumpled to the floor and closed her eyes. She let her head roll to the side and made her tongue hang out. Now it was time for Hamlet to die. Stink doubled over and fell to his knees. He crawled across the floor, gasping for air, collapsing to the ground. He coughed, choked, and took his last dying breath. Then Ortarios, Sophie, picked up the poison cup. If his best friend was dying, Ortario wanted to die too. But Hamlet, Stink, who wasn't totally dead yet, stopped his friend. He convinced Ortario that he must live to tell Hamlet's story. Then he fell back, dead, for real. Good night, sweet prince, and flights of angels sing thee to thy rest. Stink kept his eyes closed and let the mood hang in the air. The audience was dead quiet. At last, he opened one eye to peek. And who should he see but Riley Rottenberger? By Jupiter! Could she be? No! Riley's warning rattled in Stink's brain. Before Shakespeare Camp is over, I predict you, Stink E. Moody, will be getting a big, fat, sloppy, wet one. The audience was clapping. Stink's eyes popped open. He leaped to his feet. Sophie took a bow. Stink was supposed to bow too. Instead, he spun around, looking to make a fast getaway. Where, oh, where was his anti-kissing shield when he needed it? He felt dizzy. Why was the room spinning? Then, just like that, smackaroo, it happened. The thing he'd feared all week. A big, fat, wet one. A peck, a smooch, a yucky, bucky, sloppy, slobbery kisseroo. Right smack dab in the middle of his face. Bluck! Yelled Stink, like he had just smelled a corpse flower. Honey, what's wrong? Asked Mom. I just wanted to tell you what a great job you did. We're proud of you, kiddo, said Dad, ruffling Stink's hair. You have to teach me how to die like that, said Judy. Stink hardly heard a word. He turned to Mom. It was just you? It was just me what? Asked Mom. You kissed me. It wasn't girl germs? Just mom germs, said Mom, laughing. Stink was weak with relief. He let out a breath. For a second there, I thought a pox of girl cooties was upon me. Speaking of cooties, Riley's been waiting for you, Judy told him. Stink grabbed his anti-kissing shield and held it out in front of him. Away with thee, scurvy face. Riley pulled her hand out from behind her back and leaned forward. No, no, cried Stink, waving his shield like a madman in front of her. Riley held out her hand with her thumb sticking up towards 2 fingers. Here's your nose back, Stink. What? Oh, yeah. Stink pretended to take his nose back. Thanks. It's kind of a joke between Stink and me, Riley told the Moodies. Girls, who knew? Maybe Riley Rottenberger didn't have cooties after all. Riley pointed to Stink's face. You have lipstick on, you stink. Didn't I tell you before camp was over you'd get a big, fat, wet one? She grinned. Thou jesting monkey, said Stink. Picture time, said Dad. Stink squeezed between Sophie and Riley, posing for the camera. Say cheese, said Mom. Ham and cheese, said Sophie. Stink smiled a gigantic smile. Hamlet and cheese, said Stink. What a day, what a way to end Shakespeare camp. To think, Stink had saved a play and won a sword fight and died a most glorious death. He had been stabbed, poisoned, murdered, and yes, kissed, all in 1 week. Shakespeare camp was pure, puke-faced fun. All's well that ends well. And that is the end of the book.